Ron Leander.
Turn the lights down so you can see the screen. That's better. So with the heading of this presentation, the issue is, are you running your business or is your business running you? Most of us start out as entrepreneurs. If you're self-employed, we get this dream. Maybe you can use Brendan as an example. You get this dream and you go, how do I make this happen? And you decide eventually to take the plunge. You become self-employed. And everything is euphoria. Nothing can go wrong. We're going to make millions. There's no risk. I only work 8 hours a day. I take 6 weeks of vacation. And then all of a sudden, reality sets in. So we run into people like this all the time. You know, are you looking forward or are you looking backwards? So some of the frustrations that people have. One is, do you really feel like you're in control of your destiny, or is your destiny kind of controlling you? I had a client tell me one time, he said, he had a brother who was highly successful, and he said, I think all this business stuff, it's just about luck. And I'm going, where's the other shoe gonna drop? That was it. That's what he thought. I think there's a little bit more to it. It's positioning yourself to be successful and then getting after your opportunities. But most business owners we meet, when we first meet them, they're sort of overwhelmed by what's going on. And they get up, they come into work, the blinders are on. The first thing they do is they sit down like this every day and ponder with emails instead of getting after big things that really make a big difference in their business. And the business sort of owns them. Their dream has become a job, and over time they end up working a tremendous amount of hours, and they feel like they have no freedom, and their business sort of sucks the life out of them. They generally don't like that. Profits, do we all make as much as we like to make? Is there anybody in this room that's making more than they'd like to make? I mean, it just doesn't happen, right? And it's a lot easier in business to lose money than it is to make money. Substantially easier to lose money. So we generally see people that don't have as much profit. We went through a 6-year economic drought where we saw people quit reaching for more and trying to hang on with their fingernails. Now we see them sort of, they've got their knuckles on the bar, now they're trying to get up again. But generally profits aren't really where people want them to be. All of us want more, right? We can always find a way to do more. We have some problems, like we don't save for retirement like we should. We don't fund our kids' educations like we should. We sort of fly by the seat of our pants sometimes in our personal life, and we do that sometimes in our business life. So we all want more, and you know what? We need to do it. There is no option. You can't get to where you want to go with where you're at profitability-wise right now, typically. You know, we say, if I only had better people in my organization. So this really starts with who you let in the door on the front end before they become a problem. And we all want, you know, if you ever read the Jim Collins book, Good to Great, anybody read that? You all need to. He talks about a situation where you've got to get in your organization the wrong people off the bus. Every client I run into that's a new client is carrying dead weight someplace. But they're loyal to them, or they can't make the tough decision. They don't groom them. So get the wrong people off the bus, get the right people on the bus, which is the big deal. Then you figure out once you got them on the bus, where do you have them sit on the bus? And then as an organization, figure out where to drive the bus. And as another parable, we all need to read a lot more than we do. It's not enough just to read the sports section every morning. That's not really what I'm talking about. And sometimes we get to this proverbial spot where we're going, you know, I've gotten to this level, I've plateaued, and I can't get to the next level. Now what do I do? And business owners get very frustrated with that. And then you say, you know, no matter what I try, things just sort of stay in that quagmire. And maybe it's a comfortable area, maybe your income is okay, but generally we see people they really want more and they get frustrated because no matter what they try, it just doesn't seem to work. And part of that is they get up in the morning, they just go to work. There's no concrete plan. And we think that needs to change. So if you look at your business, and there's 6 basic principles that you want to focus on, in my opinion, on what you want to do. And you'll notice that down in the left-hand corner it says EOS. That stands for Entrepreneurial Operating System. Gina Wickman wrote a book called Traction, and this is a must-read. Go to Amazon.com. Pretty easy reading. You'll get a lot. Brendan's read it. You get a lot of benefit from it. And so the first thing you want to do in your business is say, okay, what are we trying to do here? Why are we here? What are we trying to accomplish other than we want to pay the bills or want to do something fun? Well, we want to have passion with what we do, and we also want to make enough profit that we really win on both accounts. The next piece is people. So once we've figured out what our vision is and where we want to go, and we do this, you do this with your management team, not just you, and then dictate down to people that work for you. But from your management team standpoint, you want to get buy-in, because if you're going down one road and you don't get your management team to go down the same road, then pretty soon you'll realize to get to the vision point just isn't going to happen. So you've got to get buy-in. On the people side, again, what we're saying here is you got to have the right people and you got to have them in the right seats. Those are the 2 fundamental principles. Then we look at data. We've all heard the terms of dashboards, balanced scorecards, key performance indicators, call it what you want. Whatever those metrics are, but to say, as a business owner, business owners wait till they get their financial statements from their accountant or their CPA, and it's like 20 days or 30 days after the last month has ended. And so the issue is, what can you be looking at as you go along? These are generally non-financial metrics that might be, if you're a services company, how many hours are we billing out every week? What's our realization rate? Are we getting paid for what we're doing? A number of metrics. If we're looking at sales, we can say, how many new proposals have we issued in the last week? How many have we closed on? So we can look at all of these kind of non-financial parameters to get an idea of kind of where we're at. And we can measure it, because we all know, we've heard this a million times, what gets measured gets rewarded, what gets rewarded gets done, right? So that's kind of what we're about. Then the next piece is we look at what issues do we face. So the issues can be either a positive thing, they can be an opportunity, or they can be problematic. For example, if we're in an industry that we need very specialized people and they're tough to find, how do we deal with that? That may be a never-ending problem. If your business cash flow is an issue, and maybe bank financing or debt financing is another issue that's got to be dealt with. How do we deal with that? If we look at opportunities, we're sort of going down this road, and what happens to all of us? We see the shiny stuff out here on the sides that we're really not attacking, but we see these opportunities. Which ones do we go after? How do we choose those things? And then we talk about process. McDonald's is a franchise company, and you've probably heard the term franchise your own business. Treat it like a franchise. Do the same thing all the way. That's what allowed McDonald's to get to where they are. It's just the repetition. They always do the same things the same way every time in every store in every country in the world. And it's documenting those processes. There might be 6 or 10 sort of core processes you do, but to have them written down. Make sure that everybody in your organization follows the same process every time. So that's what gives you the ability to deliver quality on a consistent basis. That's why when you go to McDonald's, it doesn't taste like McDonald's one time, and the next time you go to McDonald's, it tastes like you're at Burger King. That isn't allowed. They have good controls that prevent that. And process will improve your margins. If you don't focus on that, your margins aren't going to be probably what you'd like them to be, and you'll underperform. And then the last thing is traction. So we set all of this in place, and we say now, we've identified our vision, we've got the right people, we're measuring the right metrics, we're working to resolve our issues on a consistent basis. we've really nailed down our processes, and so then we need traction. And we'll talk about that. So the vision part is really two parts. There's 8 questions that we deal with. And then so the issue on the questions, this is pretty critical stuff. We talk about core values. Most of us think talking about the values you have in your company is kind of, well, we know what they are. Don't you know what they are? You know, but just to identify what they are, because then from those values, that tells you how you make every decision and how you function as an organization. To me, that's not really exciting, but it is important. Then we say, what's our core focus? Why are we here? What are we trying to accomplish? What drives us? Where's our passion come from? Then the other component that, to me, this is where it starts to get exciting, is that if we say, we're here today, so where do we want to be 10 years from now? Because if we don't know what that target is, what that bullseye looks like is, we're probably just going to float along. And a lot of business owners do that on a very consistent basis. They float along. So what we're trying to do is add some structure. So if we know what that bullseye looks like in 10 years, and our management team buys into that, now we start to, when we're doing things, we're always thinking about where are we getting to at the end, rather than what do we have to do today to survive. The next thing is, what's our marketing strategy? What are our unique differentiators? We've got to be different than the guy next door, right? Because if you're not unique, what happens? Growth is slow, margins are tiny, and they dissipate over time. I worked at 3M when I got out of school, and they had a mantra that said that 20% of their sales every year were going to come from products that did not exist 5 years ago. Why did they want that? Well, they had this incredible sales force that covered the world, and all they had to do is come up with a new design, and they could flood the market, and they could get rapid growth in that product, and they'd have huge margins. And in 5 years, what happened? The market would start to catch up, the window would close, and margins start to drop. It happens all the time. So we say, okay, we're out here in 10 years. If we want that to happen, where do we really need to be in 3 years? So now we're starting to scale this thing. We're starting to look to say, okay, what do I absolutely have to get done in 3 years? Because to look 10 years out as a business owner, pretty tough. Even the big companies have a hard time doing that. But we want to have some idea of what that kaleidoscope looks like out there. We'll shift it, turn it, it'll look different as we move along. But then we've got to nail down, okay, where do we need to be in 3 years? We need to be here in 3 years. Where do we need to be a year from today? Now we can start to see a year from now, a year, will go by fairly quickly, but a year, all of a sudden, it's this. We go from this 10-year kaleidoscope to a 3-year picture to a 1-year time frame. You're looking at going, okay, now that's starting to get crystal clear now what we have to get done. And then one of the things that happens when we're looking at trying to figure out number 6, what our 1-year plan is, business owners can generally stay focused for about 90 days. And then they start to deviate one way or another. They see all the shiny stuff out here, and they start to chase new ideas, and they forgot what their goal is. And especially when you're dealing with people who get highly excited to see these big opportunities and want to chase them all. Because the reality is you can chase them all, but you're not going to get them all, and you're not going to have very much success if you do that. So what we refer to this as rocks, or these are the 90-day goals that we want to have to say as a company. We want to have specific 90-day goals. Maybe that's 3 to 7 goals for the company of saying, these are things we need to get done 90 days from now. We have to do that. It's not an option. And lastly, issues. In terms of what are the issues? What are the things that will keep us from achieving our vision? So it might be lack of people, lack of financing. It might be a competitor beat us to it. And then where are the opportunities? so, again, and then with the people, we've got to have the right people. And so through EOS, we have a tool called the People Analyzer. And a number of these tools are downloadable from a website called EOS Worldwide. There are a number of free tools that anyone can access. And so the people, we'll say, okay, these items on the top are our core values. Are they humbly confident, grow or die? So we plug in the people and we say, well, are they on the right page, same page with us, or are they not? And hopefully we're looking for people that pretty well agree with what our core values are. And then we get George, who's a little iffy. We're never sure really where George is. So then we set the bar to say, okay, where do we need to be? So we got the right people, now we need to get them in the right seats. They need to be doing the right things. So then we have what's called an accountability chart. And so the core functions in a company are sales and marketing, operations, finance. And notice it doesn't, I'll go one more slide. What does this look like to you? Does this look like an organization chart? Yeah. We don't use that word because an organization chart just really tells you who reports to who. It never talks about accountability. And so what have we talked about thus far? We've talked about having a rock solid vision. And now we're saying, okay, we have to have accountability to make sure that it increases the probability that we'll achieve what we set out to achieve. So that's why we refer to this as an accountability chart and not just an org chart. So we start out with this, with the top of this saying we have a visionary. We've got to have somebody in theory that's got sort of some gift to say where are the opportunities. Now this person isn't going to be the only one in your company that's going to have ideas, but we want to have a person in your organization that just sort of turn loose just to figure out where this thing is going and sort of be at a high level, maybe at a 30,000 foot level, the person that doesn't necessarily get sucked into operations and gets consumed with day-to-day responsibilities. The second piece we have is an integrator. So the visionary says, here's where we want to go. What do you suppose the integrator does? He makes it happen, right? So the integrator typically is sort of an operations kind of a person. Sometimes the visionary and the integrator are the same person because you're a small organization. So then for each of these people, we say, what's the function render, and then who is it, and then the line items on here, what are their deliverables? What are they accountable for? Do they know? Is there really a clear understanding of what these people are being held accountable for? Sometimes we put someone in a position, we say, well, you go sell. Well, what does that mean? And we sort of do that. We don't really always go to great depth with our employees to really tell them what they're accountable for. So the initials on the left side, GWC, help us evaluate employees. Do they get it? That's becoming sort of a, I don't know, trendy kind of a thing, but we want to be unique, we want to be different, and so does everybody in the organization really get that? Or do they just show up for work every day? We want them to be more aware of it. Do they want it? Do they want to be part of the team and they want to help us excel? We have people that are just looking for jobs and they just sometimes don't add enough. They frustrate us, but we put up with that. The capacity to do it. Have we put them in a position to succeed? When Tom Kelly was the manager of the Twins from in '87 to '91 when they went to the World Series twice, he'd get all these guys that would come in here that especially pitchers that were more in the later years of their career, and they would want to come here because he wouldn't wear their arm out. He wouldn't throw them out in the mound every fourth or fifth day and try and pitch 250 innings in here. It's not going to happen because you'll blow their arm in their careers. Then they know that if they came here, he would take care of them. He would put them in a position to succeed. And as business owners, that's what we need to do with people that work for us. Don't put them in a position where they're over their head. We want people to stretch, but you can't. You got to be careful on how far you want people to step up. So do they get it? Do they want it? And do they have the capacity? Hopefully you don't get any ends here. That's not a good thing.
They need all three, right?
They gotta be 3 for 3 on the GWC, not just one. They could be the greatest person in the town, they could get your model, but if they're lazy, they don't show up to work, they're always negative, you know, they're in the rumor mill, you know, those kinds of things. And they just don't produce. On the data side, we want some kind of a scorecard. What do we need to measure? And we need to be doing that on a consistent basis because that's what will tell us if we're staying on task. So we say we create a scorecard and we say, okay, what do we need to measure on a week-by-week basis, and who is responsible for this, and in general, what are we trying to measure? So we might measure weekly revenue, cash balance. That's an important thing, right? Sales calls. If we don't go out and reach for more, we don't get more. Sales meetings. Proposals, are they an important thing? If we're not making proposals, we're generally not bringing in new clients. And then we don't necessarily have to sell to new clients, we can sell to existing clients. How much business did we close? Are our customers satisfied with what we're doing? Do we ever ask them? A lot of people don't want to because they think they know what their customer's gonna say. But sometimes they're sort of afraid to ask. How big are our accounts receivable? Do people pay us on time? Accounts payable, can we pay our bills on time? That's kind of a good thing too, our vendors like that. How often do we have to do warranty work? How often are we discounting things? How often are we issuing credit memos? Do we have to give them a better price the next time around because we sort of slipped up the last time? And that's sort of one of those things that sort of just kind of slides through your financials and you don't really realize it. Are we utilizing everybody? In CPA firms, we measure for our staff how many billable hours a year they have. If they don't have 1,500, we got a problem, right? So we have the scorecard. We've defined our measurables. So we can just watch this. And you do this as a management team. So now we know what we're going to measure. Now we deal with issues. We create an issues list. IDS doesn't stand for building downtown. It stands for identify, discuss, and solve. So when you get into a management meeting once a week and you've got your issues list, how do you work all the way through an issue? You aren't going to always solve an issue, these issues every time you meet, but this is an ongoing ebb and flow. But the goal is to solve the issue, not to let the issue solve itself or just, we'll worry about it later. But to really attack these, be aggressive, especially if these things are going to prohibit us from getting us to where we want to go. Identify, discuss. This is pretty important, so that we get everybody's input as to what we're going on. We need to get people to talk more and not in a constructive way. But this is sort of like opening your books up without really opening your books. But it's making all these people a fully integrated part of your company because this is your management team. There shouldn't be any surprises with these people. Now we talk about process. Do we document it? There are people who will do things like document, like when the phone rings and somebody answers it. It's got to be answered 2 rings. It's really annoying if your business owner on 4th or 5th ring it's still ringing. Well, it'll drive you crazy. Worse yet if you don't answer the phone. And it goes into voicemail. So these are core processes. Do we have a systematic way we deal with each of these functions? Accounting, oh boy, that's exciting. Maybe I like accounting. Customer retention, big deal, right? Because we don't have to want to go out and get 2 customers to replace one we lost and a marginal growth. And it's got to be followed by everyone, no exceptions. You gotta police it. Traction, we know what that means in the wintertime when you're driving a car and you've got snow tires on it. So what are these rocks? What are these 90-day goals you have to hit? And they're published, and everybody knows. And every quarter you reset your rocks. And every quarter you reset your rocks. And then we have level 10 meetings, so that, how many times you ever get in a meeting and you go, man, was that a waste of time? Anybody ever had that? It just happens. Because we don't have an agenda, we don't have a format, we don't have a process. We just sit and meet. What do you want to talk about?
What's level 10?
Where you're getting maximum benefit out of it. So we start out the level 10 meeting. What good news do we have? What's our scorecard? Again, we can go over what happened last week. We review our rocks. How you doing on those? Are we behind or ahead? People headlines. What's going on with our people? The to-do list. And then we get into the meat of it. So far we're just reviewing things that are a little bit numerical. And then this is the meat. Identify, discuss, and solve. So now we know what we're here for. We've identified what are the issues we're gonna work through, and we don't just fly by the seat of our pants. And we don't sit there and say, well, do you have anything else? And everybody nods their head no, because they want to get back to work because they're busy. Right? That's what we're trying not to do, just be busy all the time. Trying to be very focused on what we want to achieve. And then we conclude. This is what a level 10 meeting looks like. We've got a specific format or agenda that we do this in every single meeting. And if you do this, you're going to have more success. So this is the EOS model. It's a pretty cool tool to use. It's pretty hard to be less effective than you were before. It's probably impossible, unless you get a lot of pushback. The foundational tools we use, one is called a VTO. Looks like this, a Vision Traction Organizer. And it takes those 8 questions and it puts them on a sheet of paper. You can go onto the EOS Worldwide website, print this out, and you can type this stuff in, and you get a team agreement as to what's in here. 10-year goal, 3-year goal, 1-year goal, rocks, all those sorts of things. An accountability chart, we talked about that. We don't use org chart, we never say that again, right? Because when I ask business owners if they have an accountability chart, or they're going, what? You know, if I ask them if they have an org chart, they go, I think I have one of those in a drawer someplace. So what does that say? You know, it's a loose type, who sort of reports to who, and over time that changes, but it's never really very formal. And there's certainly no accountability in it. There just isn't. What are your rocks? You know, that's a really good practice. When I sat down and did this for the first time, I thought, man, is this going to make a difference? If you're goal oriented, you're really getting this stuff. A level 10 meeting, we talked about that. The scorecard. So that's traction. I'd really encourage you to get the book and read it. I don't know, Brandon, how you.
Yeah, and I'll say quickly, and Danielle, who's still here, she can attest. She's our operations director. We are slowly implementing the pieces of this, and we've been doing it over the last couple of months. And I feel, and see if Danielle agrees, but that it's made a big difference of keeping everyone in the company on the same page, holding people accountable. We're a very mobile company where we don't say, hey, you got to be in at 8 and leave at 5. So I need a way as an owner to know that people are doing what they're supposed to be doing, and this system really helps us to do that. And we're not having meetings for the sake of meetings, we're having meetings to accomplish things. Yeah.
As a professional implementer, we can lead people through this process, because if you read the book and try to figure it out yourself, you will benefit. If you want to take it to the next level and have someone lead you through the process, we can do that. There's about 50 of us in the country that do this.